Chapter 1. My girlfriend kept her distance from me in public while fanning the flames of a sensationalized romance with her best male friend. On our wedding day, she abandoned me for him. While I was lying alone in a hospital room, tormented by pain, she called to demand why I was giving Ethan a hard time. Later, when she fled our wedding for a second time, I finally gave up and decided to end things. But then she came back, crying and begging for my forgiveness. I just shook my head. It's too late. I only had it in me to love you 4 times. On our wedding day, my fiancée, Victoria Vaughn, was about to bolt, still in her wedding dress. I asked gently, "Victoria, the ceremony is about to start. Where are you going?" Her face was a mask of anxiety, and her whole body trembled. "Ethan. He called me. He said I have to be with him, or he'll jump from the Ashton Spire. You know how terrified he is of heights. Her exquisite features were twisted with distress, her face deathly pale. I instinctively tightened my grip on her hand. "But today is our wedding." She shoved me away, thrusting her bouquet into my hands, her eyes brimming with tears. "I'm sorry. Sincere. I hope you can understand. He's my best friend. He's so important to me." I let out a cold laugh. "More important than me?" Her gaze darted away. Then, under the stunned eyes of all our guests, she left me standing at the altar. "What's going on? Did the bride just run out on him? If she was going to call it off, why not do it sooner? You don't think she was forced into this, do you?" The piercing whispers reached my ears. I took a deep breath, trying my best to appear calm. "Everyone, I apologize. My fiancé had a very important matter to attend to. We'll have to call it a day." As the crowd dispersed, my father, Arthur Clark, walked over and placed a hand on my shoulder, his expression somber. "Sincere, there are plenty of other fish in the sea. You two are not cut from the same cloth." I went home and sank into the bathtub, letting the ice-cold water seep into my bones, trying to numb myself. My father's words echoed in my mind. We had met on the set of a science documentary series. She was the host, I was a special guest expert. "Professor Clark, could I continue to learn from you in the future?" Her bright, sparkling eyes had captivated me. There was a purity in them I'd never seen before. I was smitten. After the show, she reached out and we started dating. It wasn't long before we were a couple. I remember when we first started seeing each other, my dad was vehemently against it, even threatening to blacklist her. I made a deal with him. I would give up medicine, my greatest passion, and take over the family business if he would back off. Over the years, I used all my resources to help her career flourish. And she was brilliant, becoming a household name after her latest reality show. Our future seemed so close. But with her success, she became busier and busier. Sometimes I regretted my part in it. It was on that show that she met Ethan Hayes. The two of them became the nation's favorite on-screen couple. And I became a laughingstock online, the pathetic sucker. "There are rumors you're secretly dating Professor Clark. He seems to treat you differently," a reporter once asked her. "I guess he's just more forward. To be honest, I don't feel like I know him that well," she'd replied. Her casual dismissal felt like a dagger to the heart. I'd confronted her about it. "Victoria, we're about to get married. How can you still say you barely know me? Let's just wait a little longer before we go public. I still want to focus on my career." But while she was denying me, she and Ethan were inseparable. They were often photographed, sharing a bowl of noodles or drinking from the same water bottle. "For my sake, could you please just keep a little distance from Ethan?" I'd pleaded. She angrily wrenched her hand away. "Sincere, not everyone has a dirty mind like you. He's my best friend. I won't have you slandering our friendship." I'd pulled her into an embrace to soothe her. Okay, we won't talk about it. As long as you're by my side, that's all that matters." She always knew I couldn't leave her. The next day, as I was getting out of my car at the office, a man ran up and doused me with a bucket of red paint. The acrid smell filled my nostrils, and the sticky feeling on my skin made it hard to breathe. My bodyguards tackled him, but he didn't stop screaming, "Die, you sucker! Anyone who gets in the way of Ethan and Vic deserves to die," one of their hardcore shippers, apparently. For a moment, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I spent what felt like an eternity in the decontamination shower, feeling more humiliated than I ever had in my life. Later, I sat on my couch at home, feeling completely drained. If she had never loved me, then wasn't everything I had done just a pathetic joke? I scrolled through my social media feed and saw a new post from Ethan. "We did it, wish us luck." The photo was of the Ashton Spire. A knot of anxiety tightened in my stomach. I called Victoria. Chapter 2. Victoria, is everything okay over there? Her voice came through the receiver, hoarse and strained. I got him down, but he's not in a good way. He's threatening to slit his wrists. I have to stay with him for a bit. I hesitated, still worried. Do you need me to come? Before I could finish, I heard Ethan's cloying voice in the background. Sis, I'm so hungry. A moment later, Victoria's voice, directed away from the phone. Sis, I think the soup you made for me is ready. I'll go get you a bowl. The hand holding my phone began to tremble. She had never once cooked for me. A wave of bitterness and resentment washed over me. I hated myself for feeling this way. Sincere, I have to go. I'm busy here. I said nothing. Victoria seemed to sense my mood, her tone softening with a hint of guilt. Does this bother you? She asked tentatively. I wanted to be magnanimous, to say it was fine, but the words that came out were, what if I said it does? Suddenly, Ethan cried out in the background, Sis, my head hurts so much, help me. Victoria's voice immediately grew tense. Sincere, you're the best. I'll be back the day after tomorrow. We'll reschedule the wedding, and I'll go public with our relationship then. I promise. The dial tone echoed in the empty room. I stared at the black and white photograph of my mother on the coffee table, a suffocating pain gripping my chest. That year, Victoria had been working herself to the bone filming, and had come down with a severe case of pneumonia that no treatment seemed to help. My mother, Eleanor, heard about a shrine in St. Jude's City that was said to work miracles for health, and she booked a flight that very night. She never made it off that plane. From that day on, Victoria's health miraculously began to improve. Her career took off, and the time we spent together grew less and less. I endured the darkest period of my life alone, and I slowly realized that the distance between us was growing. She seemed to be avoiding me, intentionally or not. I tried to bridge the gap, but she refused to open up to me anymore. I once held her from behind and whispered, Don't overthink it. What happened to my mother had nothing to do with you. She pushed me away. Sincere, I think we both need some space. I gave her space, but then I started seeing the gossip online, story after story about her and Ethan's flirty behavior. I had suggested breaking up once, but she refused. Don't be ridiculous, Sincere. You wanted to get married, didn't you? Let's just do it. I was as happy as a child, canceling major projects to plan the wedding myself, but she was always busy filming with Ethan. My thoughts returned to the photograph in front of me. Looking at my mom's kind face, tears started to fall. Mom, I miss you so much. Are you doing okay up there? I don't think Victoria loves me anymore. A sharp, stabbing pain suddenly erupted in my abdomen. A cold sweat broke out across my body, and my vision went black as I fainted. When I woke up, I was in a cold, sterile hospital room. A doctor's voice was instructing me, It's acute gastroenteritis, you need a family member or friend to come sign the paperwork, exhausted in both body and soul. My mind was still filled with one person, Victoria. I missed her so much. For the first time in my life, I wanted to be selfish, to be demanding. I called her. Honey, I'm sick. Could you please? She cut me off before I could finish. Sincere, how old are you? Stop lying. Are you a child? Ethan is in a really bad state here. I can't leave. Don't make this difficult for me, please. I froze, feeling the love and fire inside me being extinguished by a bucket of ice water. Right. Sorry to bother you. Wait, Ethan has an important contact flying into Bristol today. Could you have someone arrange his itinerary? I was silent for a long moment before replying with a single word. Fine. I hung up, checked myself into the hospital, and then called my assistant to make the arrangements for Victoria's contact. My heart was turning to ice. I'm a proud man, and I have trust issues. Victoria was the only one I truly confided in. Since she wasn't coming, I didn't want anyone else to see me in such a pathetic state. The pain in my stomach flared again, and I passed out, my mind drifting back to the early days of my relationship with Victoria. Chapter 3. We were lying under the night sky, watching the stars. Victoria's eyes were shining as she pointed upwards. Is that a star? I held her small frame close, trying to shield her from the cool night air. Yes, the light we're seeing now was probably emitted by that star a very, very long time ago. She blinked her enchanting eyes and said, Just like my love for you. Then she kissed my cheek. My heart had hammered in my chest. Perhaps her love for me had vanished long ago, and what I was feeling now was just an illusion. I woke with a start to see 15 missed calls from Victoria on my phone. When I answered, her voice was a furious hiss. Sincere, how could you be so despicable? I frowned, completely bewildered. What's wrong? How many times do I have to tell you Ethan is just my friend? How could you use your connections to sabotage his career? I didn't. I've been in the hospital for the past few days. Still lying. Do you really think I'd believe that? Who else would have it out for Ethan but you? She seethed. I chuckled softly. You should probably ask him that yourself. Ethan is young and reckless. He's a B-lister who acts like a diva because of his online following. I imagine he's made quite a few enemies. Through the phone, I heard Ethan whine, "Sis, don't fight with that old man for me, he's not worth your anger." The line went dead again. This time, however, I felt strangely calm. After I was discharged, I started tackling the mountain of work that had piled up at the office. My father came to see me. That actor, Ethan Hayes, has been using his public platform to slander our corporation. It had a minor impact on our stock price. I suspect he probably won't be working in this town again. It hit me then. It was my father. Dad, for someone like him, a warning and a small incentive would have been enough. I can handle it. My father shook his head in disappointment. Look at you, a complete wreck over a woman. Where's the Clark family backbone? I lowered my head, silent. Dad, our overseas expansion project has been on hold. I've thought it over, and I want to go abroad and grow the business. My father's face lit up with relief and pride. You've finally seen the light? That's great. What brought this on? My son is finally growing up, no longer tangled up in pointless romance. I nodded. Victoria, this is the last time I'll help you. I contacted a renowned producer and secured roles for both Victoria and Ethan in a new blockbuster film. My plan was to go home, break up with Victoria, and then head overseas to focus on expanding the Clark Corporation. That evening, I came home to find Victoria waiting for me, dressed in her wedding gown. When she saw me, her eyes widened, and she broke into a radiant smile, just like when we first started dating. How do I look? She spun around, the skirt of the dress fanning out in a beautiful arc, shimmering under the lights like a fairy. I nodded. Beautiful. She came up behind me, wrapping her arms around my waist and pressing her cheek affectionately against my back. Clarky, I was wrong. I could feel the warmth of her body through my shirt, her warm breath on my neck. I had been out in the cold for so long. Even the smallest bit of warmth felt like a lifeline. But I never suspected it was a silken blade, and every cut was fatal. What do you mean? I just found out you weren't the one who went after Ethan. And you even got us parts in that major production. I love you so much, but don't be mad at Ethan, okay? He's just got a childish temper. He doesn't mean any harm. I gently pulled away and sat on the sofa. Victoria came over and sat beside me, tugging at my hand playfully. Forgive me, please? Pretty please? I'll listen to you this time, I promise. We'll have the wedding next week. Nothing like last time will happen again. Victoria knew that whenever I was angry, all she had to do was act cute, and I would melt. But this time, I felt a chilling clarity. She produced a small box from behind her back. I bought these especially for you, your favorite mango crepes. I had to go to so many places to find them. I looked away. The truth was, I don't like sweets. I only ever ate them because she loved them. Seeing my silence, she cupped my face in her hands and kissed me softly. Sincere, please don't be quiet. It makes me nervous. Her eyes were red-rimmed, making her look like a wounded rabbit. I sighed, resigning myself to my fate. One last time. I'll give her one last chance. For the next few days, Victoria was true to her word. She didn't take any of Ethan's calls. She postponed all her work commitments to focus on decorating our future home with me. When we came to a crib in one of the stores, she smiled, her eyes crinkling at the corners. Sincere, should we buy a few cribs? I smiled back at her indulgently. Isn't it a little early for that? She grabbed my hand. Not at all. I'm going to give you 5 big, beautiful babies. We're going to have such a happy, lively family. A warmth spread through my chest, and I pulled her into my arms. I thought that maybe I had just been too busy before, that I hadn't spent enough time with her. So I cleared my schedule and dedicated myself completely to her. We spent our days shopping and exploring the city. At night, she'd excitedly work on handmade crafts for our future children. For a moment, I was so overcome with happiness I didn't know what to do. But on the day of the wedding, she chose Ethan again. Mr. Clark, make sure there's actually a wedding to celebrate this time, my vice president, Isabel Pierce teased. I grinned, feeling the warmth of the sun on my face. Don't worry. This time, I'm bringing her home. The ceremony went smoothly, But just as we were about to exchange rings, the grand doors of the hall were thrown open. Ethan stood there, dressed in a suit, his eyes red and swollen. He was holding a knife to his own neck. A thin line of blood was already visible. His face was contorted in a crazed expression. "Vic, are you really going to abandon me and marry him?" Chapter 4. Victoria's eyes filled with pain as she looked at Ethan. "Ethan, don't do anything reckless." I pulled her tightly into my arms, my gaze fixed on him with contempt. "She's my fiancée. What do you mean, abandon you? Where is this nonsense coming from?" My words seemed to trigger him. He screamed, his voice cracking with desperation. "Don't you get it? Vic has never loved you. You don't understand her at all. You think you're so great with your dirty money, don't you? Without your father, you're nothing." VP Pierce let out a sharp, derisive laugh. "Mr. Clark isn't even 35, and he's more than doubled the Clark Corporation's revenue. That's a level of drive a manipulative psycho like you could never comprehend. Shut up. What do you know? If I had his resources, I could do it too." As Ethan grew more agitated, the blade pressed deeper into his neck. Victoria shrieked hysterically. "Ethan, stop, put the knife down, and I'll agree to anything. I promise." A flicker of triumph crossed Ethan's bruised, dark-circled eyes. "Anything, really, Vic, I want you to leave with me, right now." Victoria slowly turned to me, her eyes filled with hesitation and utter confusion. I took a deep breath and spoke calmly. "Victoria, think very carefully. If you walk out of here today, there will be no coming back for you and me." Large tears streamed down her cheeks. Ethan pressed the knife harder against his throat. "I would give my life for her. What does your love even count for?" he taunted with a crazed laugh. "You have no idea what we have between us. No one can compare." "That's enough," Ethan, Victoria shouted. "I've told you so many times, we are just friends. Maybe you misunderstood." Ethan's lips curled into a flippant smirk. He stepped forward and grabbed her arm. "The way you treated me was more than just friendly. I'm only asking you once, are you coming with me or not? If you don't, I'll die right here today." With a sharp clatter, the heirloom emerald bracelet my mother had given Victoria fell to the floor and shattered into 4 pieces. I felt the blood rush to my head. That was my mother's treasure. It was more important to me than all the money in the world. That bracelet had been passed down for generations, and now was destroyed by his hand. In a blind rage, I grabbed Ethan by the collar and started punching him relentlessly. A loud crack echoed as a hand struck my face. My cheek burned. Victoria was crouched on the floor, frantically wiping the blood from Ethan's face. "Sincere. He's sick, you'll kill him if you keep this up." I broke into a wild, hysterical laugh, not caring how pathetic I looked. "Victoria, that was my mother's heirloom. It was the last thing she left for us." A flash of guilt crossed her face before she looked up at me. "I'm sorry, Sincere. I'll get it repaired. But you are not to hurt Ethan again." Ethan wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, took Victoria's hand, and led her out of the hall in front of everyone. "You see, she abandoned me again." That day, once again, I sat alone in the empty wedding hall for the entire afternoon. I called Victoria many times, but she didn't answer. I sent a text message, "We're through." As evening approached, Victoria ran back into the hall. Chapter 5. I sat alone in the center of the grand hall. She approached cautiously and sat down beside me, her voice trembling. "I'm sorry, Sincere. Is it still possible for us to get married now?" Her tears fell onto my hand. I looked at her. She was a mess. Her elaborate updo was falling apart, she'd changed into casual clothes, and her lipstick was smeared. I let out a self-deprecating laugh and shook my head in disgust. "Victoria, an afternoon wedding is for second marriages." She moved closer, trying to kiss me. "Then we'll get married tomorrow." I shoved her away. "Stay away from me. I feel dirty just looking at you." It was probably the first time I had ever been so harsh with her. She stared at me, stunned, tears welling in her eyes. "It's over." It seemed to take her a long time to process what I was saying. Then she erupted. "Sincere, did you ever even love me? You just look down on me because of where I come from, don't you?" I stared at her in disbelief, shaking my head helplessly. Wasn't my love obvious? What more did I have to do to prove it? Still, I spelled it out for her one last time, my voice steady. "I loved you 4 times. Now I don't." She looked at me, her expression lost and confused. It was only then that I noticed how much her eyes had changed. They no longer held the purity they had when we first met. "The first time, I didn't care what anyone said about you. I chose to love you, to protect you, and to help you build your career. We were both busy, but I wanted to be your partner through it all. The second time, when you started your public romance with Ethan while keeping your distance from me, I chose to be patient and forgive. I believed you when you said it was for our future, and I chose to love you unconditionally. Victoria collapsed, wiping furiously at her tears, her face a mask of regret. Stop. Please don't say any more. I was wrong, Sincere. Can we please start over? I ignored her and continued. The third time was after my mother's death. I knew a rift had formed between us, but I still thought we had a chance. Even though I cried myself to sleep every night, I still chose to believe you wouldn't throw our relationship away. I knew your promises were empty, but I believed you again and again. Do you know what that's like? Every time my trust was betrayed, it felt like another knife twisting in my heart. She slumped to the floor, her tears soaking her clothes, her body racked with sobs. Sincere, I'm so sorry. I never knew you were suffering so much for me. I thought you just saw me as some trophy wife, a canary in a gilded cage. That's why I kept testing you, trying to make you prove it. I shook my head and gave a bitter smile. The fourth time, I endured endless humiliation and pain, and you still didn't change. Victoria, the answer to whether you loved me was in 1,000 tiny details all along. There won't be a fifth time. It's over. As I finished speaking, I realized my own face was wet with tears. If only life could always be like the first time we met. But it couldn't. When there's no way to go on, you can never go back. I walked out of the hall without looking back. Behind me, I heard Victoria's broken sobs. Sincere, it's because I broke the emerald bracelet, isn't it? If I can get it fixed, will you be able to love me again? I paused for a fraction of a second, then continued walking forward without turning around. She panicked. She screamed that she knew she was wrong, but it was already too late. A broken mirror can't be made whole again. Chapter 6. I went home to pack a suitcase. I took one last look around the home we had shared. I had bought this house for Victoria. I had personally selected every piece of furniture, every decoration. 5 years of my life, gone. As I walked out the door, Victoria was standing there, her eyes red and puffy. I didn't say a word, just pulled my suitcase and walked away. She called out after me, Sincere, can you please give me one last chance? I can't live without you. I walked faster. It's because you found someone else, isn't it? She screamed, her voice filled with righteous indignation. I scoffed inwardly and kept walking. I threw myself into my work, determined to get the corporation's affairs in order before leaving the country. Isabel teased me. You're acting like you're never coming back. When have we ever let you down? I smiled, nodding with gratitude. You're right. It's thanks to my loyal comrades in arms that I can leave everything in your hands with complete peace of mind. Go win your battles. We'll always be here holding down the fort. That evening, I had a final dinner with VP Pierce and our lawyer, Quentin Sharp, to go over some final details of the company charter. Suddenly, a glass of water was thrown in Isabel's face, followed by a sharp slap. I looked up and saw it was Victoria. A swarm of reporters was trailing behind her. So this is why you wouldn't forgive me, no matter how much I begged. You already had someone else. She stood with her arms crossed, looking at Isabel with the air of a wife who had just caught her husband cheating. Tell me, how long have you been seducing my husband? Isabel frowned, looking at Victoria as if she were insane. What on earth are you talking about? Mr. Clark and I have a purely professional relationship. I can sue you for slander. Oh, keep pretending. See all these reporters behind me. I can ruin your reputation in minutes. Ms. Vaughn, if you continue, I won't be so polite. I could tell that Isabel, who was normally sharp and formidable, was only holding back out of respect for me. But Victoria had gone too far. That's enough, Victoria. We are broken up. Apologize to Isabel right now. Her expression twisted into a crazed, hideous sneer. What did you say? So you two are having an affair, she turned to the reporters. You see, the famous female vice president slept her way to the top. Mr. Clark and I are legally engaged, but she shamelessly destroyed our relationship. A reporter piped up, but, Ms. Vaughn, didn't you previously say Mr. Clark was a pathetic sucker and that you barely knew him? Victoria's expression froze on her face. She was speechless. I laughed. Yes, Victoria, why don't you tell them what's really going on between us, and about your relationship with Ethan and why we broke up? She fell silent, then meekly pulled a gold-inlaid jade bracelet from her bag, holding it out to me with a pleading look. Sincere, look, I had the emerald bracelet that your mother gave me repaired. Can we go back to how things were now? She stared at me, trying to make her eyes look innocent and cute, but all I felt was disgust. I took the bracelet and put it in my pocket. This was meant for my mother's future daughter-in-law. It doesn't belong with you. I'll have Mr. Sharp transfer you the money for the repairs. Tears streamed from her eyes. Sincere, how can you be so cruel? I smirked. I could be crueler. Isabel hit her back. I would not let my colleagues suffer because of my personal problems. Isabel raised her hand and slapped Victoria across the face. Furious, Victoria lunged at Isabel, but I caught her arm. Miss Vaughn, you and I are finished. Please have some self-respect. Just then, Quentin Sharp returned from the restroom. Well, what's all this commotion? You do realize I can sue every last one of you, don't you? The reporters' faces paled. Let's go, that's Quentin Sharp. I heard not just anyone can hire him. This Sincere Clark guy isn't just some academic like the rumors said. Someone said he's the CEO of the Clark Corporation. Victoria's face changed too. You were having a 3-person dinner, not a date? I laughed out loud. What does it matter to you how many people I have dinner with? Stop harassing me, you lapdog. The next day, the headlines exploded. Victoria Vaughn, gold digger, dumped by tycoon. Victoria Vaughn's two-timing exposed. The truth behind the Victoria Ethan Showmans. Sincere Clark, heir to Clark Corporation. The whole truth was out. Victoria's reputation was in tatters. No one in the industry would hire her again. A few days later, I was at the airport. I glanced at the news online. There was a story about Ethan Hayes being paired with a new starlet for his next publicity stunt. I sneered, disgusted, and was about to turn off my phone to board my flight overseas. Just then, a text message from Victoria came through. Sincere, let's get married. I really can't live without you. I promise I'll retire after the wedding and just be with you. I deleted the message and blocked her number in one swift motion. Even one more second felt like bad luck. A new life. Here I come. The overseas project was a resounding success. I expanded the Clark Corporation's global footprint. 2 years later, I returned home. At a family dinner, my father was beaming with pride. I never thought I'd see the day once you got over that woman. It's like you were reborn. I was right about you. You're a natural-born genius at business. Isabel chuckled. Of course. Our Mr. Clark is a master of everything. Except for being a complete blockhead. When it comes to love, I placed a piece of meat in Isabel's bowl. Eat up, it'll keep your mouth busy. She feigned annoyance. My father looked at us and laughed heartily. You two are like a pair of bickering lovebirds, Sincere. It's about time you thought about settling down. It would be a tragedy if the Clark Corporation had no one to inherit it, wouldn't it? I frowned. I'm not in a hurry. I still want to focus on my career. I think, Isabel said, then quickly covered her mouth as if she'd spoken out of turn. He's still not over it. I smiled and put some more vegetables in her bowl. I was long over it. Chapter 7. 5 years later, Isabel and I were married. We had fraternal twins, a boy and a girl. Even after years of marriage, we were as in love as ever. Ethan Hayes had been blacklisted after his constant publicity stunts finally offended a powerful industry figure. I never heard any news about Victoria Vaughn again. Until one night we attended a gala hosted by a business partner. I hadn't wanted to go, but since it was organized by one of the Clark Corporation's earliest employees, I went to show my support. At the party, a middle-aged woman was scurrying around, offering business cards with an obsequious smile. This is my husband's business. Please show your support. Her groveling demeanor was completely out of place at the upscale event. A balding man saw someone toss his card in the trash and stormed over to her. What's the use of putting on such an embarrassing, classless display? You're a disgrace, he hissed. I never should have married you. You're completely useless to me at first. I only thought the woman looked vaguely familiar. But on closer inspection, I realized it was Victoria. She was completely transformed. She answered meekly, I'm trying my best. It wasn't even easy to get into this event. Don't ask for too much. The balding man looked at her with disgust. Look at the state of you, who would ever want to talk to you. Sensing my gaze, she looked over at me, a flicker of surprise and delight in her eyes. Sincere? Isabel immediately stepped to my side and linked her arm through mine. It's been a long time, Sincere, do you remember me? Victoria asked. The balding man sidled up to her, a greedy look on his face. You actually know Mr. Clark? Victoria nodded smugly. Know him? We're very close, isn't that right, Mr. Clark? She looked at me, her eyes full of expectation. I maintained a cool expression and offered a detached smile. "I'm sorry, we're not acquainted." The balding man quickly dragged Victoria away. Even as they walked off, I could hear him berating her. "What the hell were you thinking, putting on an act like that? Mr. Clark isn't someone we can afford to offend. If you ever cause me trouble like this again, I swear I'll slap you silly." He raised his hand as if to strike her. Victoria flinched and instinctively covered her head. Please don't hit me, not here, there are so many people, have some decency, I really do know him, we'll deal with this at home." I watched her retreating figure and shook my head with a wry smile. Fate was a funny thing. The once proud woman had been brought so low. As she left the hall, she cast one last lingering look back at me. "What's this, old flames rekindling? Feeling a pang of pity for your damsel in distress?" Isabel's sweet, gentle voice whispered teasingly in my ear. I immediately pulled her into a tight embrace. "Not at all. I was just wondering who that person was." I inhaled the unique, clean scent of bamboo that always clung to Isabel, a scent I could never get enough of. "We're in public, stop it." She tried to push me away, but I held onto her hand tightly. When she tried to pull it free, she glanced around nervously. The great Mr. Clark, letting everyone see him as a love-struck, henpecked husband. "What will people think?" I squeezed her hand again. "No way. You're not getting away from me. I'm going to hold on like this for the rest of our lives." Isabel broke into a heartfelt smile, and in that moment, I thought she was the most beautiful person in the world. Late that night, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "Is this the outcome you wanted? Are you satisfied?" I assumed it was from Victoria. Without a second thought, I deleted it and blocked the number. Sorry, but I hadn't thought about her at all. Why would I care how a complete stranger was living her life? My only desire was to cherish, doubly and triply, all the genuine love I was lucky enough to have. I love my family.